The internal pathway, this conversation, Neville Goddard based, is based on the premise of what we have been discussing, of this internal pathway to bringing forth our vision. We're going to discuss, based on the logical levels, Dilt's logical levels, the different aspects of the journey to bringing forth your vision and adjusting our inner conversations, inner dialogue, interpretations, assumptions in relation to these different layers so that we can have more of a harmony-based journey to the realization of our vision. Now, this is based on this understanding that we find all the answers within. And as we continue to go into this journey of self-realization via our inner conversations, we discover how much of an impression our inner conversation has on the externalization or reality. Now, we look at it as the five sensory experience as a reflection of what is in our imagination or what we are inner dialoguing about. So not only do we have our visions, but we also have the pathway revealed within via our inner understanding. We know the answers, and what we want is to allow ourselves to really listen to ourselves so we can integrate the answers that we find within. And as a result of integrating these answers that we find within, we experience a more flow-based journey to bringing forth our vision, whatever our goal, whatever our desire may be. Now, James Allen, in his book, The Heavenly Life, said it really well, where he said, "Set a great teacher to his disciples, those who shall be a lamp unto themselves, relying upon themselves only, and not relying upon any external help, but holding fast to the truth as their lamp, and seeking their salvation in the truth alone, shall not look for assistance to any besides themselves. It is they amongst my disciples who shall reach the very topmost height. But they must be willing to learn." And he also says, "The true teacher is in the heart of every man, and must ultimately be found there by all." Now, this is what we're going to continue to realize on our journey, is that we always knew the answers intuitively. It was there. We always knew the kind of life that we wanted to live, the kind of vision we wanted realized, and we also knew the way to bring forth that vision. We call this intuitive understanding. Now, our degree of understanding is revealed by our inner conversations, what we say when we talk to ourselves, how we interpret based on what we experience in the day-to-day journey, be it people, circumstance, environments, information, is revealing to us about ourselves and our level of congruence in relation to our vision, or lack of congruence, which we've been calling the self-image or the identity, which is what we are embodying when we select in our imagination what we desire to see brought forth. These inner conversations, these inner dialogues, what we're thinking within ourselves is revealing our interpretations. And reflecting here on the Dilt's model, it's revealing our congruence with our vision, our identity, what we believe and what we value, our capabilities, as in our skills, our behaviors, and our environments, and how we integrate to these elements. And what we want to do is we want to order our inner conversation. We want to change our perspectives, if needed, so that we can experience more of this flow-based journey to our vision. This is the ongoing journey of walking this inner pathway. That's what this is. As much as it is about bringing forth your vision, it is also about ordering the inner conversations to self-realization, higher levels of understanding of yourself and the divine realm and the world within, which is infinite. So thus the pathways that we walk on are individualized. We find our individual ways of bringing forth our vision, and we find our individual attributes that contribute to our vision, such as somebody's values and beliefs might be different than another person. Someone's skills and capabilities might be different than another person. Behaviors and environments and identity, etc. We are selecting the identity when we affirm the vision on our subconscious, and then we allow ourselves to express the optimal values and beliefs, capabilities, behaviors, and environment. That's what we do. And we find if there's any kind of inner resistance that we have within ourselves on the journey through the revelation of these attributes. So Neville states, our inner conversations represent in various ways the world we live in. Our individual worlds are self-reflections of our own inner speech. We are told that every idle word that a man shall speak, he shall give account thereof. For by their words they shall be justified, and by their words they shall be condemned. So all day long we're having these inner dialogues, inner conversations, and we are interpreting the different aspects of reality. These interpretations are revealing about who we are, the concept of self, the subconscious self-image, and they are also revealing why reality is the way that it is in relation to our vision. Now, when we realize that we are the ones assigning meaning, and we're the only ones assigning the meaning, and although you may receive some suggestions from information in the outer world, others, and so forth, ultimately you have the power to, we could say, realize that you have the power and identify if that interpretation really is true to your vision or not. Is it based on past interpretations? Because we've been discussing that so much of our interpretations is based on our past, and what we want is accurate interpretation in relation to our vision. So let's go into these layers here: vision, identity, values and beliefs, capabilities, behaviors, and environment. One of the reasons why I love working with this model is because it helps me take, and I recommend it for others as well, complex, or what would appear as complex information of the mind and help us categorize it in a way that will be very relatable to our journey. So we have a vision, and Neville states in relation to a vision, get first the consciousness of the things that you are seeking and leave the things alone. This is what is meant by ye shall decree a thing and it shall come to pass. So this is the commitment. When we commit to a vision and assume it is done, we start to recognize the journey unfolding to the realization of this vision. And the journey is revealed just as much as it is in the outer world circumstances as it is via our inner conversations. Now, one of the things we want to recognize is that even when we commit to a vision, we may have some limiting interpretations about ourselves or in relation to bringing forth a vision. And we want to study these and recognize if they are really accurate or not. And then if they're not accurate, change the perspective that we have in relation to what we say I am to within ourselves. And thus then, as we change these interpretations, we change. For example, a person may set a vision that they want to build a business. And then an idea might pop into their mind that says, but I don't have the time. When we recognize that this is an interpretation, and if we identify with this interpretation, we're going to see the proof in the outer world experience based on conversations, information, circumstances, and so forth. This particular can be then used as a stepping stone to a higher truth, which is found within, such as, perhaps I have not had the time before based on previous circumstances, but I know that I can commit to a vision and bring it forth because I've done so in many areas of my life. And I found through these experiences that I was able to ascend past this rigid interpretation of time. Thus, by committing to this vision, I'm going to reveal to myself how I do have the time, because some way, somehow, I'm going to achieve my vision. So now what this does is this brings a level of openness to what we have as far as possibility. When we remove these kinds of interpretations regarding bringing forth a vision, or in this stage, committing to a vision, it's easier to commit to the vision. We select the vision and we assume it is done, as Neville states. Now, as soon as we assume it is done, we embody the identity of the person in relation to the vision. When you see yourself in the vision, you see yourself believing a certain way of how reality works. You behave a certain way, you think a certain way, and you emotionally integrate when it comes to reality based on your vision in a way that's one of harmony. In your imagination, you see it. This is the process of affirming the identity on the subconscious mind, as we've been discussing through our conversations about Psycho-Cybernetics, the book by Maxwell Maltz. The self-image is now forming in a way that reflects the vision. It's one with the vision. And he states, your greater self will influence the actions and words of all who can be used to aid the production of your fixed mental attitude. So what we do is we hold on to this fixed mental attitude, this identity, which represents beliefs, assumptions, and interpretations. And as we've been discussing, this fixed mental attitude is what we would call our predominant identity or our current self-image. And if we have any kind of interpretations, beliefs that limit us in relation to our vision, we don't go and have to change all of them. However, if we want a more flow-based journey to the vision, then what we can do is we can identify any of these limiting interpretations that we have within ourselves, assumptions, beliefs, etc., that seem to create unnecessary friction in the behaviors, the capabilities, the environments, the relationships with people, and our ability to bring forth what we desire, and change our perspective regarding those elements in the outer world. Essentially change our beliefs. As we do this, we further remain fixed on this mental attitude. The mental attitude, or the identity, becomes more affirmative to the vision. So a perspective that may show up is, I can't because, and you can fill in the blanks, I am not, ... And you can say, and a perspective shift that we might need to have on this journey is the removal of I can't because I am not, and fill in the blanks, whatever I am not. One is not smart enough, one is not good enough, one is not deserved enough. These elements, if they bring forth a higher degree of tension and reactivity of affirmation to the vision, we have the power to change these relationships that we have within ourselves, and then further unravel this inner pathway to the destination as well as self-realization. This is found within. So this is what James Allen has been referring to when he says the true teacher is in the heart of every man and must ultimately be found there by all. As we continue down this journey, we build this inner divine relationship. We start to understand what the spiritual philosophies and aspects of spiritual understandings mean. And it's an individualized pathway, so it might mean something to you in a way that is relatable. But when you share it with another person, they might have their own relatable way to that same attribute within themselves. Or they might not have discovered it yet. And this is a journey. So, in relation to bringing forth a vision, we select a vision, we assume the identity that is in relation to the vision, and on the journey we identify certain inconsistencies in relation to our values and beliefs, capabilities, behaviors, and environment. And we change how we relate to these attributes within ourselves. This is the ongoing journey of higher degrees of realization of that identity, embodiment of that identity. So when it comes to values and beliefs, Neville states, does it come within a frame of the golden rule? What am I now asking? Would I ask of it of another? Would I ask another if what I am seeking now for another is something I would ask for myself? Well, the golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you keep that in mind, you cannot go wrong. Now, this is a deep value, a deep belief, integrated. And if there's any kinds of convoluted kinds of interpretations, it's going to be revealed in how we integrate into our environments, with people, with circumstance, and so forth. However, if we find it, we can change how we relate to it so we can feel more love, more joy, more harmony on our journey in relation to those aspects of our journey, our relationships with people, with our environments, with circumstances, and so forth. And ourselves, because as mentioned, this is part of the self-realization journey, the understanding to a higher degree of who we really are, as well as bringing forth our vision. We want both. That's why I always suggest to value the journey and see it as valuable as the destination, because it is on the journey that we identify these beliefs. And as we change these beliefs, these limiting beliefs, limiting interpretations, limiting assumptions, to be more in alignment with the vision, we find more flow on the journey to the realization of the vision. Now, when we're talking about vision, we're talking about loyalty to the vision from a perspective of faith. Faith is loyalty to the vision. However, if we have challenges being faithful to our vision, we can identify why we believe that it is challenging to remain loyal to the vision, assuming that it's done and that everything is in harmony and in contribution to this vision, and change these perspectives within ourselves. And as we change it, we can reflect back on the golden rule, because as we make these changes subconsciously within ourselves, these changes not only contribute to bringing forth the vision that we desire, but they also pave the pathway, these inner assumptions pave the pathway via the bridge of incidence to other visions that we decide to bring forth in the future. So an example would be, I don't have enough experience. If a person were to say that they don't have enough experience, they only need to reflect on the countless people that have achieved that same vision. And they all started out by not having a certain level of experience required to produce the results. And sometimes a person can produce the result without even having that experience, some way, somehow. That's the power of working with the information from Neville, is we're allowing the subconscious mind to do an expression in a way that we might not be able to conceive as far as a potentiality or a logical linear way of how our vision is going to be brought forth. This is more about trusting and allowing. The same is to be said about capabilities and skills. So if you go down the entrepreneurial journey, perhaps some of the skills that you might find yourself developing, cultivating, are direct response marketing, consultative selling, copywriting, leadership, operations, business building skills. When we're in flow and we're autotelic, one with the journey to the realization of our vision, we have essentially embodied the identity. These capabilities and the information to cultivate these capabilities seem to show up, and it feels very natural. It doesn't feel very force-based. One of the interpretations that a person can have in relation to capabilities is the perspective of, it is too hard to do this, it is too hard to do that. Now, that's an interpretation. That's what we're saying I am too. That's what we are embodying, and thus is being experienced through our behaviors, tension, reactivity, and so forth. And as we change these interpretations regarding to accurate in relation to the vision of whatever way that I need to express, whatever skill I need to cultivate, I'll be able to do it from a place of flow, more so each day. It will start to reveal it to be this way. Your bridge of incidence will be more in harmony with that way of thinking. I know, because I'll speak from my experience in the earlier stages of my journey, I found it very hard to do the things that I know I needed to do. The key word is know that I need to do. And there was inner resistance. But when I started to continuously work with this information and change limiting beliefs and interpretations and associations within myself, assumptions, and align more with these accurate truths and interpretations that were found within, as stated from James Allen, the true teacher is in the heart of every man, and must ultimately be found there by all. Having these inner dialogues to reveal, I call this true inner voice, which is distinct from the mental chatter, and affirm those particular beliefs, interpretations that were accurate to more of a flow-based journey, I found that I was able to achieve, but at the same time, I was cultivating the skills and performing in a certain way, and things were happening through me via the concept of self, via the self-image that is reflective of that vision. Because if you see yourself at that vision, you recognize that the person that you see, which is you, at that vision, behaves a certain way. integrates with the environment, seems to be at ease, and thus the capabilities and behaviors or anything related, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, is one with that vision from a place of least resistance, as we've been discussing this, which is one of Neville's important concepts, is to bring forth our vision from a perspective of least resistance. And so where is the resistance? The resistance is in the interpretations, the beliefs, the assumptions of ourselves in relation to people, environment, circumstance, information, behaviors, capabilities, vision, as well as the embodiment of different states of mind that we seem to fluctuate through as we go through the day. A person might fluctuate into different states of mind, and that's fine. We just bring ourselves back into our ideal state of mind. And if we have challenges bringing ourselves into the ideal state of mind, then we identify what are the interpretations, beliefs that we have that seems to sway us in a different direction and change those interpretations. Understand that most of those interpretations are subconscious. They're stored within the subconscious mind, the paradigm, the identity, the self-image. However, we have the power to change this, because if you look at your life, you've changed, you've grown, you've realized yourself more. And this journey, inner pathway, it's all happening within. All of this is happening within ourselves, is a continuum. Now, same is to be said about behaviors. And Neville states, since a state is total and complete in itself, when we enter a state, we are compelled to behave in a manner dictated by that state. So this identity that we assume, that we embody, brings forth the ideal behaviors that is in relation to the vision. Once we affirm that identity, once we assume that identity, we automatically move down in ideal behaviors capabilities, although there can be friction, yes. And if there's friction, we can change our relationship to these attributes by finding the answers within ourselves. And as we change the relationship to these attributes to be more in alignment with the golden rule, we'll find ourselves more in flow to the destination, and we'll continue this inner evolution, inner realization of self. So perhaps a perspective revelation through the journey is, I keep trying, but it does not work. This would indicate that a person is not in this state that Neville is referring to, which is reflective of the vision, because that state is complete in itself. We enter the state, we are compelled to behave in a manner dictated by that state. So, does not work or keep trying is excluded out of consciousness. So then we can change our perspective around that. We can say, I realize that all that I am able to bring forth is revealed within myself, and creative ways of bringing it forth. We talked about this in our last conversation. Recommend watching that. Where we talked about living from a perspective of creative imagination so we can be more innovative, and recognizing that since we're connected to infinite intelligence within, we have creative ways of bringing forth a result. And one of the things that we've been discussing in regards to Quantum Leap, which, by the way, if you have not read that book, it's a very important book. It's called The Quantum Leap Strategy by Price Pritchett. He talks about how repeatedly doing the same thing again and again and again and making incremental progress seems to slow us down and bring us into a place of stagnation and frustration. And what we can do is shift it around, do something totally different, switch it up, which is why I'm a huge fan of changing your environments around, or anything that stimulates that inner voice of inspiration and creativity. Because then what will happen is you'll allow yourself to go back into that state of mind. You'll discover the distinct pathway via that inner connection in relation to the true teacher in your heart that will guide you to the realization of your vision. Now let's talk about environment. Neville states, the individual's environment, circumstances, and conditions of life were only the outpicturing of the particular state of consciousness in which that individual abides. Therefore, the individual sees whatever he is in by virtue of the state of consciousness from which he views the world. So we're going into different states of consciousness. And what we want is a state of consciousness that is reflective of the vision. such as if it's the entrepreneurial journey, then it's what we traditionally call as abundance consciousness or success consciousness or the entrepreneur's identity. And the identity or that state of consciousness represents a way of being, and we embody that is reflective of the vision. And how we relate to environment, circumstance, and conditions, and the representation of that state in environment, circumstance, and conditions, as he stated here, are the outpicturing of the particular state of consciousness in which we are finding home in, dwelling in. We like to discuss dwelling in because when we got into the 7-day mental diet discussions, and I'll put a link in the description to that video, it was very revealing when Emmett Fox suggested that it wasn't the negative thoughts that were causing a problem, but it was the dwelling in those negative thoughts that put us into a different life track that created unnecessary friction on our journey. And all of this is happening from within. So we have the power to then understand these thoughts that we're having, change how we relate to those attributes via our thinking, and then find ourselves back in the identity that is reflective of the vision, thus harmonizing with the environment, circumstances, and conditions that were revealed on the journey, and then we become more autotelic, one with our vision. And then we enjoyed the journey even more. And I would say, where do I see myself in as far as environment goes in relation to my vision? Where am I? The environments represent an important part of our journey to the realization of the vision. It represents the state of consciousness that we're in. You change how you interpret yourself to be, or where you see yourself to be, and you find yourself in the ideal environments that are reflective of the vision. One of the common sayings in personal development is, you are the sum of the 5 that you associate with. Now, you associate with is referred to your identity, as in your identity is doing the selecting subconsciously. Where you go, where you reside, what environments that you are experiencing. Same is to be said about the capabilities, the behaviors, is where you are on this internal pathway. It's a reflection of the inner journey. Thus, a cause and effect reflection process is very important. One of the things I like to do is reflect upon my experiences that I have each day. And I enjoy this journey. I don't see this as hard work. I see this as flow-based. Self-realization is an ongoing journey that's joyous. It was meant to be that way. And one of the things that we'll understand is that we'll become more self-reliant, self-confident, self-esteem will go up, and thus those attributes of identity seem to automatically express as ideal values and beliefs, capability, integration, behaviors, and environment. So what we want to do, in grand summary, is as we continue this pathway to bringing forth our vision, whatever it may be, recognize this important internal pathway and how the internal journey, as we discussed in the last video, is allowing us to express, is facilitating the expression in the outer world as the outer world journey. And if we find anything that is in disharmony and not related to our vision based on interpretation within, we can change those beliefs, interpretations within. And what I like to work with is subconscious mind audio, self-talk, and revision. Revision is a concept that Neville speaks of, and it's changing how we relate to our past and the different experiences and the interpretations we gave to those experiences in our past. I'm going to put some links in the description for a couple of videos that I recommend watching in relation to those topics. So I trust that this video has taken a lot of the stuff that we've discussed and further simplified it into what can be done along the way. I recognize that this is an ongoing journey, and as we continue these journeys together in our conversations, as you continue to reveal more attributes within yourself and become more of who you are, and I do the same thing, and we all do the same thing, we continue to move together in spirit of harmony in a mutually beneficial way to our vision. If you want a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.